I started to feel it in my body.
Yeah.
But what I did know for many, many, many years was there was something wrong. And growing up in a society where mental health was still a taboo, was not being talked about. In a family whereby mental health was still unknown. So there was this whole big thing of the unknown. I went to the doctor and to a general practitioner, and he diagnosed me, and he said, "Hey, I think you're suffering of something called bipolar." And I'm like, what is it? I heard it before because it was like a name that was just being thrown left, right, and center. So I heard it. I didn't know anything about it. But what it does is when I started reading up on it, it made sense. When I look back into my life, a lot of things made sense. I then took a time because first the first stop after the general practitioner, I went to my mom. And that was just literally a few months when I lost my father. So I didn't want to sprung this whole entire thing, but I just really didn't know who to go to. So I went to my mom, and I told my mom about it, and she says, "You know what, there's a family history," right? And I said, "Okay, it's fine." So they know that it's a hereditary thing. And the doctor then said, "Okay, fine, you have to go to see a psychiatrist, and he will do further diagnosis and things like this." So it took me 1 year to get to the psychiatrist. But within that 1 year, it was the darkest time of my life. If we're talking about, I didn't know where to go to. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to take my medication. It was prescribed. There was a lot of uncertainty in and around it. And it was just a spiraling thing. I looked at other form of coping mechanisms, and it just didn't work. It was negative coping mechanisms, and I just didn't cope. Eventually, after a time, I got arrested, and I thought to myself, okay, I'm losing everything. So the only positive coping mechanism I had was my kids. I want to see my daughter walking. I still want to walk my daughter down the aisle. So there's three things, Stan. There's three things. Untreated conditions, right? You end up either in prison, you end up in a psychiatric hospital, or you end up 6 foot. That's the three. That's the only three things that you unmedicated or untreated or do. That's where you're going to end up. So I knew that was one of the three because I have been arrested 7 times. I have been in prison once, and I knew that if I do not get help, then I won't be able to see my daughter walking down the aisle. And that was my positive coping mechanism. And that steered me for that year, steered me to the right direction, saying, I need to go. And that's my first step in going to see a psychiatrist. When you go see a psychiatrist, he then says, okay, you just don't have bipolar. You have bipolar and adult ADHD. Right? And I said, he said, I refer you to a psychologist. You have to go see a psychologist. I'm like, okay, yes, I am all hyped up. I want to get my life back on track. And then I went to the psychologist, and the psychologist says, oh, no, you're just a psychiatrist, is right. You do have bipolar, you do have ADHD, but I have to diagnose you also with PTSD. So I'm sitting with these three coexist conditions currently, and which I'm getting treatment for. And it was my whole life just sunk down. But the determination is that I look back on that 1 year gap from going to the general practitioner to the psychiatrist and how my life was then. And I made a promise that I would not want to see anybody go in that direction that I have gone through, the direction of unknown. And this is hence me reached out to SADC and I've done the course as becoming a support group leader.
Nice.
And I said, this is the time that I want to make sure that nobody goes to that dark space that I have, the dark space of unknown. Yeah.
And you mentioned something now, your behavior during that time, because you didn't know what was happening to you. You didn't know how to treat it. You ended up, prison once, you were arrested 7 times. Tell us more about that, because obviously nobody understood you. Nobody knew what you were going through. You yourself didn't understand what you were going through. How did that affect your life?
Yeah.
And also, you are a business person as well. But in a company that you work for, how did that affect your life?
Okay. Yeah, so I was fortunate to be part of an international company.
Yes.
And being one of the directors of the company and planting a subsidiary in South Africa and also overseed some other international prospects. And it was then at my last year at that company that I had my first, what they called hypermanic episode. I was traveling from Germany to Spain, and I'd travel from Spain and just in that period of time, there was just not something. There was something. I was hyper elevated. My mood was hyper elevated. I had thoughts of grandiosity, and I thought this is not normal. But I felt victorious. I felt like I'm on top of the world, and that was my first. Once a mental breakdown, but my first episode that I have encountered. And it could be possibly because of the triggering of the death of my father. And that's where you have underlying issues, and there's certain triggers that happens. And I eventually decided to make quits with the company because I acknowledged that my actions was out of context. And then I decided to start my own company at the same time. But it was a back and forth. But eventually, it's not a lot of people have the opportunity to get up treatments and things like this, psychologists. And and it at the end of the day, it gives me just the sense of giving support to my members in my support group, and also the influx of calls that I get. Know how to deal with people that are going through the similar situations that I have been going through.
That's why you mentioned something. You spoke about the Cape Flats, and we know there's a lot of people. I mean, if I look at my family, I'm not a professional, but I can sort of see, but this is not behavior. This is the other problem. Do you think? I think these type of things we need to catch at primary school level already.
Yeah.
I think the schools also need a psychiatrist or some professional to come and evaluate youngsters, because post-traumatic stress disorder, many of our people that you see them killing somebody. I mean, that stays with you for years.
Absolutely.
If we can change this, now, and we will change it forever.
Stan, I can tell you now this. People don't understand the depth of PTSD or trauma. I was subjected to trauma, hence being diagnosed with PTSD.
Yeah.
And it manifested in my late 30s. It manifested in my late 30s, where I start seeing the symptoms of my trauma. So where I start having nightmares about things that happened when I was 13, 14, 15 years of age. I don't even want to go into that right now because it's the severity of it, and there might be listeners that might be triggered. I would just refrain of talking about my experience, but it's horrific. And one undermine, and they don't really know the depth and the severity of how it will influence our children. And trauma is something that surfaces and then it goes it surfaces up when it happens. You don't sleep as a child, especially as a child. The processing part of your brain is not developed yet. It's like a sponge, right? So when it starts fully developed, then you will see it starting to surface up when you're in your early 20s. But for me, it manifested in my late 30s. So it's something that we as parents have to be mindful for what we're exposing. So to give you an example, I watched the Station Strangler movie.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Showmax. And we have a class group, the son's class of 2000, matrix of 2000, and we had a short discussion about that in our group, and people said no, they're not going to watch. It's too traumatic for. I tell you this. I watched the movie. I got reminded about the notes and the things. The evening, I couldn't sleep. I had nightmares after nightmares after nightmares after nightmares because it was unresolved issues. It's our parents used to take us to the scene and say, if you don't run, if you don't walk around, if you need to come home and you don't have to walk around, you don't have to play around with the games and whatever, this is what's going to happen to you. Our parents they didn't know how detrimental that would have been for us. Especially when they have, when they get together with the neighbors and they discuss this, and we are in the middle, listening
to what they're saying,
and now at my age, at 42, I'm getting still nightmares of what is happening because I got triggered. You understand? And fortunately for me, I know how to handle certain triggers, but there's not a lot of people that will be able to know. They don't know how to handle triggers and how, if things comes up, what you need to do, what coping mechanism, what tools can you use to somehow alleviate the trigger. Do we go through the trigger, or as becoming resilient, or do we avoid the trigger? So that's the discernment that a lot of people don't have, and that makes it very difficult, and that at the end of the day it affects us.
You mentioned something now about our parents. Our parents believe everything can be fixed with hiding, or back then. It was their ways. You must remember, coming from the Cape Flats, they kept emotional intelligence away from our people.
Absolutely.
To think for ourselves. And that was the basic things that they kept. They were clever when they designed these prisons. They knew what they were doing. And we can say with everyone, it's evident that most of us are still stuck in that ways, and some of us have changed. But it's difficult, With technology and organizations out there, do you think it's better nowadays for parents to get information from the professionals? Because like I said to you, my father would give me hiding because he thought it was, I was naughty. But I wasn't naughty. I could have had bipolar. I could have been schizophrenic or post-traumatic stress. Do you think that parents should take this platform that's available and do more research? Because I think as a parent, one of the things that we must do is better our parenting style.
Absolutely.
But how do we do that? But yes, we have a phone. If you can go, I believe if you can go into TikTok, if you can go into Facebook, you can do research in the right places. And I think that should be compulsory for parents.
Yeah, and you are 100% correct on this. The information is out there. Is the big problem is, Stan, is applying it. We can read about how we can parent our child better. But applying that tactic there is this wall that has been pushed over. It's on. I was listening on a call, and there was a child that couldn't speak to their parents because that child was. One said this child is schizophrenic. I'm not. But they showed symptoms based on my knowledge. And it was to a point whereby the child could not speak to their parents. And the thing with parents is that they create that wall whereby the child cannot speak, but at the same time, on the other side of the wall, they have also the fact that they would try not to apply these tactics or these skills, and even as parents, as myself, and we have to always upskill ourselves as parents, and becoming woke in the terms, right? And seeing what is the youngsters into today? What is my child listening? What is look at behavioral patterns. If your child or frigidity is we are destructive. We're destructive in our own way, and I have been in not just in, if you talk about relationships, and talk about friendships, and talking about it was bad. It was not even with medication. There's times that I burst out. There's times that I have more off days. I'm not perfect. I can tell you now. I'm not saying that I'm getting the best or I'm getting the therapy that I've required. Whether it's talk therapy, whether it's medication therapy, whether it's self-care, it affects my relationship. And this is hence me saying this. I had a talk with my brother, and we both were halfway in tears. And I was just like, you're not supporting me. You're not there for me. And the question that stood for me that he asked was, I don't know how. It's not that I don't want to be there for you. I love you. I want to support you, but I don't know how. And that resonated. That, like a lot of light bulbs went up. And then I started a slight small campaign in terms of how to be there for somebody, or how to support somebody that has a mental health condition, but without burning yourself out. Because you cannot give from an empty cup. You cannot support somebody that you're empty. You cannot give anything. So what you need to do as somebody that is supporting, you need to educate yourself about the conditions. You need to know what to say, what not to say, what is triggering, what is not triggering. You need to know the ins and outs. So education is a vital importance and a fundamental importance for supporting somebody that has a mental health condition. And I'm talking about any mental health, whether it is dementia, whether it's dyslexia, whether it's bipolar, borderline personality, whatever it is. You have to educate yourself in and around the specific thing, or in and around. And that's only then you'll be able to give support. So I started this, it's like the campaign, and then the campaign basically went into an event. And we were talking about how we can support, or how can people do loved ones support. And it was an amazing event. It reached way and above our expectations. And we just saw how hungry the people were to help the people that are suffering of a mental health condition. And I just want to throw this in the spanner. This is the spanner into the works here, is that it was really funny because there were a lot of men. There were so many men that came up to this event that I was, if I look at the percentage wise, I would say at any give and take, I was blown away. I never expected so much men, but it just shows that slowly the stigma is breaking down.
It is.
Especially among the men. The men is starting to talk. And today, I also want to encourage, I can tell you now, it's not easy. For a man, it's not easy to speak about its emotions. It's not easy.
It is the most difficult thing. Taswill, I just want to go quickly here. 100% any condition, not just mental health, educate. Okay? Riyadh, yes, I got your message. I'm going to be in contact with you soon. I've said it with a team. Marshall, you have such a good soul. We need more of this motivation and how we can change our thinking patterns and how allow platform to speak about in school. And then Ian says here, and maybe we should send the email to them. Mental health is real. I must be honest, I do not think SADC is very helpful, to be honest. So we will allow you to have your opinion, everybody, but however we need to address this, then we need to send an email to SADC, and you need to tell us what can they do better. Because at the end of the day, we need to tell people, we need to give people help, and we need to give them advice. And if we can better any service, then we must do so. So maybe we can give them like an email address, you can email to, and we can take it further. Gigi says here, sorry Stan, only verse I can leave right now is Psalm 31. And then Beatrice here watching, Rene Jones say absolutely true. Please share this live. Okay. Ashley Cornelius is also on here. So true. And then Tariq says here, Miyagi Jacobs, the parents have the narrative to change, and parents have to be heroes. And I think that is what we're looking for, is heroes in this day and age of time. You said there is a myth about mental health illness. I want you to tell us more. Give us what is not a myth? Because we have, in everything there is a myth, we make up our own things. And also, like many years ago, I heard this lady said to the other lady, and I was still very young, what you do is you give your child fish oil and you to drink, and you pray over them, and then it will release the demons inside of them. And that boy was actually mentally ill, and today he's in an institution. But I think our people need to realize that you need to see professional people. Absolutely. We can't make a conclusion on our own.
And thank you for highlighting that. What I have noted is that I also do a lot of talks, especially when it revolve about our religion and everything. I can tell you this much, is that Christianity has become more acceptable to the notion of mental health conditions, and it's been a whereby they can say, they can discern, whether it's a spiritual thing, whether it's a psychological thing, and any believer, will be able to discern that. Then there's a problem with your faith. If there is something where you say, you have to drink fish oil or whatever it is. So what we can do.
I disagree with it. If most of the men are mentally, not healthy or mature, how can we just be a men to make the world? I mean, the one thing is that I pick up from the Cape Flats, we have a lot of broken dads raising children. So you have a broken man raising another broken man. The cycle, we're not breaking the cycle because we're looking after ourselves.
Absolutely.
Growing up in a home, the father grew up without parents. He had to live here and he had to live there. Back in those days, it was different. And all the trauma that he had to go through, there was no counseling, there was no help. Many of our men, if you speak to them, 60, 65, you can still hear, but this man thing, like a boy of 12, 13 years old, is never grown up. And I mean, the system has also been created like this way. If you look at our schooling system, people can say, people don't like me to speak about apartheid, but apartheid, the badge is far from the car's taken off, but the engine is still driving the vehicle. Apartheid is still playing a role in how the KPS has been set up. I think if a study is being done, you will notice that a lot of our men needs mental help, mental stimulation. And I think that is the problem that we have, is that we're not really digging into that problem. Because you have men that are leaders in the communities, but they're still little boys. And it's not their fault. Like I said to you earlier on, emotional intelligence was taken from our communities.
Absolutely.
There was no recreational facilities. There was no teaching teaching us, and that you have the right to say yes and you have the right to say no. You just have to say what the boss say. That is still operating. Do you feel that we need to still break down that statues, that barriers that is keeping our people back from moving forward? Because the fight against poverty and the fight against being free, it's actually that of a mental health your mentality is going to have to change.
Absolutely, and that is a potent question, and if I have to summarize in my perspective, is that it's how many years after democracy now,
Yeah.
right? And in aspects of mental health, yes, I'm seeing a movement in the last year or two, to be honest, whereby, and it's the new generation that is coming up that's saying that, and social media has been such a good influence, but at the same time, one have to be mindful of what you take in.
Yeah.
And we might not be able to change our parents.
Yeah.
But what we can do is that we can pave the way forward to our children.
Yeah.
We can change like you said, the narrative. But we cannot always, our parents were not exposed to emotional intelligence. Yeah. And I mean, one can ask, what is emotional intelligence? And if you even ask it right now, a lot of people would not understand what is emotional intelligence. Now, it's a father that finds out his wife is having an affair. How is he going to handle his emotions right now? Is he going to lash out? Is he going to be destructive? Is he going to do the unthinkable? Is he going to take and say, you know what, this is extremely painful. I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to distance myself from the situation. I want to get it. Because right now, I'm thinking with my emotions. Right now, my emotions is right there, and I will not be able to assist the problem. That is emotional intelligence, when you can detach yourself from the situation and say, right, so now when you slightly calm down, you're in a better space. You can think more rationally. Then you can say, this is how I'm going to address the matter. Or not just that, any incident, whether it's you lose your job, or your wife loses her job, or the husband loses his job, how you deal with it at that present moment when you find out the news. And unfortunately, yes, like you said, we have been deprived from emotional intelligence, but it's right now. It's at our fingertips. It's just right here. It's here, and it's just a matter of how we can implement it. And that is the thing, is when we have to implement something, it costs dedication.
That's right.
It costs perseverance. It costs to be going out of your comfort zone. And that is not, most of our parents, they are comfortable. They don't want to go out of a comfort zone. But we have everything at the fingertips. We can change that generational curse. We can change that generation. And if we as a colored society can be able to grasp that, to make that change, and make sure that our children don't go through the same thing that they have gone through, I think we have a better future in the colored society and in the Cape Flats, definitely.
And I think you are so right, because at the end of the day, there's like you say, if you have a laptop, if you have a phone, you can go onto a portal. There's organizations worldwide that offers you these type of courses. You wrote something earlier on, and make an end with it, because we only have 3 minutes left. And this is what is happening on the Cape Flats. No child should be grieving a loss for a parent while the parent is alive. Many of us have buried our parents, but our parents are still alive because of relationship issues. I was in court a couple of months back, family court. I had to go there. And I noticed, but this court is full of colored people. Mothers that don't get along with their children, fathers that don't get along with their children, husbands that was in love with the wife and now they are fighting. There isn't a way to really resolve issues in a civil manner. And I realized, and there was lots of people. I want to tell you, while I was sitting there, I probably saw about 100 to 120 people just coming in. And then I asked the people, it's like this every day. They said, no, this is the little people. Every day people were coming. And that is the problem, is that relationships may be complicated sometimes because of mental health issues. We don't know what the person is going through. And also the person needs to be brave enough and say, I need help. I need you to come out and give me advice on how to handle this. And like you say, there's medication also to like treat this. You know, any words you want to just end with? How do we help people to get help? You know, to come forward. You know, and how do we make them realize that it is important for their well-being to speak up?
Yeah. So it's extremely brave for any person to take that step. It's a brave step to say, to acknowledge I need help.
Yeah.
Whether you're suffering from alcoholism, drug addiction, they say the first step is to acknowledge that you need help or that you acknowledge that you have a problem. So there are several organizations that is out there that is available. And I heard, I'm really sorry about the bad experience the one gentleman had with SADC.
Yeah.
I can tell you now that I have been with SADC now for 2 years, and I had the honors to be with the headquarters.
Wow.
And going through each and every department, and there's up to 3,000 calls per day.
Sure, that's a lot, eh?
There's 3,000 people asking for help. There's 3,000 people that's searching for help. There's 3,000 people that's brave enough to ask for help. So we have a call center, and these call centers are extremely busy. And sometimes the calls, what it happens is when you call in and there's not it revolves and revolves and revolves to one center to one center. And eventually they will get a message to call you back. So I have to apologize for the gender, but there is also 8,000 people 8,000 WhatsApps that comes through
per day,
per month.
Okay.
People saying, please, I have this. So there we have rural containers, we have school talks, we have universities, support groups online, like speaking books for people that are maybe literate. But what I'm saying is that there is help. SADC is one way of assisting. There is there's other organizations, but the first thing is acknowledging, hey, I have a problem. And I also want to make it out, if any person that are suffering with a mental or think that they are suffering from mental or they have some form of depression, please reach out. There is help.
Yes.
And